All right. This was suggested. Someone hit me up on Tumblr about this and said that I should check this out, and I thought it might be fun. It is, the name is terrible. Like it's they're trying to go with a Wordle kind of, they're trying to do a thing. Doesn't, I don't think it works super well as a name. Well, hopefully this will come right in. Gamedle is the name of it, and it is sort of a, well, this is not coming in, so let's try it like this instead. There. Well, okay, if I move the window, that's even weirder. Okay, let's take this and transform. Fit to screen. There we go. There are a few different ways to play it. Like going off box art or like keywords and stuff. It's interesting. It's interesting. So I think I can go through the dailies here, because I think they've rotated since the last time I looked at it. So so this is what we're faced with here, is a blocky mess. Okay. All right. I guess this is the part that's undone, right? So that's not really helpful. Huh. I'm going to say, what if this was like Assassin's Creed 3? It's probably not. Okay, it's given us this other useless. Oh, are these going to actually be clues here, or? Okay, that looks like a building of some kind. That is still not helpful, so we're just going to... Okay, so we've got some kind of... Man, all right. Some kind of mountain or... hill. Oh, man. The database they're used for this is interesting, because there's a lot of... And also some of these box shots have had like the title in them. And so like I had a situation where it was Forza Horizon 5 and I kept guessing other games in the Forza franchise. Yeah, that's still okay. We got some kind of lighthouse type thing here in the distance. Yeah, Dear Esther. That's as good a guess as any. Is Dear Esther even in here? Sure, let's try it. All right, it was Dear Esther. That's ridiculous. I never would have gotten that one, because Dear Esther doesn't have a box. So the idea of box art is most of my... So that's like one of those things. Like I have taken a look at a lot of game boxes over the years by virtue of like, reviewing games and getting all that stuff down. I've spent a lot of time staring at, back in the day, it was ebgames.com, and figuring out the release dates for games, so I knew when reviews were coming up or when I needed to be bugging a company about a review or whatever. And so there's an era of box art, and they are all physical boxes. And so like indie game box art and digital only box art, I feel like is kind of a lost art in a lot of ways. But there are a handful of modes here. So here's one. So that's cover. Here's one that's from artwork. Oh boy. I played this a little bit last night and I feel like I did okay at stuff. But and also it makes you type like you know, I guess you can just hit skip or something, but like in these modes it doesn't give you a hint based on what's happening. Oh, is this in here? Regular or rebirth? Let's try rebirth. All right. There you go. Yeah, Pat points out that the actual box art for Dear Esther doesn't even match that box art. So I'm sure they're pulling from some database somewhere, and who knows if that database is even correct. Guess the game by keywords. Okay. Oh, yuck. All right. Well, Keyblade is a pretty good hint here, but like what, you know, mini games, Wonderland, crossover. I mean, we're just going to have to just guess these until we get it. Let's say Kingdom Hearts 2. Oh, okay. Gummy Ship, Party System, Greatest Hits. Oh, it's got voice acting. Was the Gummy Ship only in later ones? Was that a Kingdom Hearts 3 thing, perhaps? Love Triangle, Reluctant Hero, multiple endings. Oh, it's a multi-phase boss. Let's try the first game. It was the first game. All right. This one, I think, is probably the interesting one. This one's been... this is the one I spent the most time with last night. And so you start with nothing, basically. And so I always for whatever reason, I've been starting with Devil May Cry 4. And it gives us information here. We can turn on the summary here. And so we know that it has a single player mode, but it also has additional modes because it didn't just move this up here. We know that some of these platforms are right, but not all of them. We know that it is not a hack and slash beat 'em up or an adventure game. We know it's not fantasy, horror, or action, and we know that it's newer than 2008. We also know it's not a third-person game, and it was not made by Capcom. So, I always kind of, this is not going to be right because we know it's not an action game, but just in order to try to get some of the other things right. So you see, we've locked in that it does have multiplayer, it does have co-op, and it does have single player. It does not have split screen, which is one of the other options here. We know it's not a shooter. We know that it appeared on Xbox One, among other things. So if we're at 2009 to 2014 and it appeared on Xbox One, it kind of has to be an early Xbox One game. Or a game that got ported to Xbox One way later, which is kind of frustrating. It is not a first-person or a third-person game, which means it has to be side view, a text adventure, isometric. We know that it is... some of this is right. Action, warfare, science fiction. Co-op play rules out most fighting games. It is not a Halo game because this would say the right saga if that was the case. Also, we know it's not published by Microsoft. So what would be a game? So sometimes I'll the year part is the hardest thing, but I've been trying to get better at that, and so I can think about things in eras in terms of like, where was my desk in this time frame? 2009. That's like San Francisco basement. But if this game appeared on Xbox One, it's probably not a 2009 game. It's probably a 2014 game. And then there are a lot of games that are not in here, like Loco Cycle, which is fine because it's not. It's not Loco Cycle. It's either it's either a sci-fi or a warfare game. It could be both, but we know it's not an action game because of down here. We know it is not an adventure, a hack and slash, or a shooter. And because of the first person, third person being ruled out, we know it's probably going to be some kind of top-down game or side view game, some kind of isometric thing, or probably some kind of strategy game based on what we know so far, or an RTS or something. That's not the right era, and it did not come out on Xbox One, I don't think, but okay. World in Conflict was 07. Yeah, I guess World in Conflict was 07. Huh. Okay, so we know now that it is an isometric. Bird view is a bad name for a perspective. I don't know that I've ever heard that used before. I think that's terrible. Zoo Tycoon. Let's try Zoo Tycoon if this is in here. It is in here. We could try Planet Zoo also. Is that the right era? Oh, that's even older. So simulator is partially right, meaning so whatever's going to be up here, it'll be simulator and something else. It is not a sandbox game. It could be sci-fi and warfare. Maybe that's XCOM. What do they call the first XCOM reboot? Was just called XCOM, right? So this is old XCOM. This is original XCOM, not. Is Enemy Unknown the? I thought that was the. Oh, okay. That is the reboot. Okay. So we know it's not an Unreal Engine game, which actually narrows things down in some ways. If you can bring your brain about to think about that. I would not call XCOM Enemy Unknown an action game. I don't know where they're getting this from. Let's take a clue. That'll fill in. Okay, well, that gets us the year. We kind of knew it was probably 2014. It's not Halo. I keep coming back to like, I keep looking at this and going like, well, it's got to be that Halo. It's got to be Halo Wars or whatever. I thought XCOM Enemy Unknown was the original XCOM, and then when they brought it out here, for some reason, I thought they just called it XCOM. But I guess I'm misremembering that. Okay, so it's not necessarily sci-fi. It could just be warfare. We know it's an isometric or top-down view. Oh, you're right. It was XCOM UFO Defense. That was the yeah. You're right. That was the original one. Red Alert 3. You're saying that's that's is that 2014? That seems early. I feel like that's gonna be like 2012 or something. 2008. Okay, so, and we know it's not an EA game now. So, did Anno 1800 come out? No, 2019 for that. And now we know it's not a Ubisoft game either. 2014 single player, multiplayer, co-op, isometric game, simulator of some kind. It could potentially be a real-time strategy game. Not historical. We have not eliminated the possibility of sci-fi, but it doesn't have to be sci-fi. It could just be warfare, because every time we've gotten warfare, we've also gotten sci-fi. So we haven't eliminated that yet, but that's somewhere in there. 2014. Age of Empires 4 is newer than that, right? Age 2 is super old. Age 3 is not. This is not. Yeah, that's 05. I'm crazy. And also, we knew it was not a Microsoft published game because we got Zoo Tycoon and Halo back here. So, last chance. 2014 isometric video games that probably came out on PC and Xbox One. It may have also been a PS3 360 game. Oh, okay. So we know PC, we know Xbox One at minimum. Oh, and it's not warfare. So it's a science fiction. So it is a sci-fi themed game. Man, what the fuck is this? Xbox One is really the thing that's like tripping me up a lot. Like, what's the sci-fi game of 2014 isometric? Not published by Microsoft, so it's a third-party game. That the other thing is, like, again, this could have appeared on Xbox One years later. It might have been a PC game that got ported or something like that. Transistor. I'll you know what? I'm not a. We'll play together. That's not okay. I don't think that games that have like maps qualify as isometric / bird view. That seems insane to me. Like, it's a map game. It's a, there's no view. Like, I guess, like, if you want to, like, if you wanted to apply that, I could see why you could, but it's not a representation of a real world. It's like you're looking at a map in that game the entire time. It's not, like, if anything, it's a first person game because it is representing you staring at a monitor. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a weird. That's a weird one. I guess given the parameters of what they have in terms of, for perspective, then I guess that's the one that fits, but like, that's still not great. Anyway, you can do that one in an unlimited fashion. I wish you could go the other direction in this. I would like a way to say, like, no, give me games from like as old as it gets, but could cut it off at like 05. I think that would be fun. And indie, like, including indie games, I think just like adds such a menagerie of video games. But you can do this one over and over again, and so we can kind of start again with a Devil May Cry game. Okay, it's older than 2019. It is a third-person game, but not just a third-person game. So it may have a first-person option as well. It's got all three of these again. And we know it was this era of Xbox One, PS4, and PC. It does contain action, among other things. It may have adventure. It may have hack and slash. It's older than 2019, so what's a game that has third person as well as other stuff and is an action game, but not just an action game? It appeared on that era of console and PC. What about this? Okay. So we know it's first person, third person between 2016 and 2018. And it was PS4, Xbox, and PC. And it has co-op. And it has multiplayer. First person, third person. Co-op and multiplayer. So Battle Royale is its own mode according to this. So presumably PUBG is not an option here. It is not an MMO. It does not have split screen. Was there a Monster Hunter on PS4 and Xbox One? I don't think so. Monster Hunter World was on more than just. Was World on? Yeah, okay. But okay, but we know it's not Capcom. And World came to. I guess it didn't. I was gonna say World also came to PS5 and Xbox Series X, but I guess it didn't. Either way, we know it's not Capcom. I guess like this era of Assassin's Creed didn't really have multiplayer, did it? Like they had done away with it by this point. But maybe it's worth it to figure out if it is a Ubisoft game. Black Flag is probably too old, right? Black Flag is like more like 2014-ish. Unity is too old. We learned nothing from that. Okay. Well, we know it's not Ubisoft now, at least. That's right. Black Flag was a cross-gen game. Man, what is this? That was like the early days of that whole $10 upgrade. That was a mess, wasn't it? Okay, so it's not Bethesda, Capcom, or Ubisoft. What did Sega put out in this zone? It wouldn't be GTA 5 because that went on to be released on PS5 and Xbox Series X. So that's on more platforms than this. Lawbreakers. Is Lawbreakers even in this database? Probably not. Let's think about the themes, I guess. Well, wait. We know the action is a theme, and so we can't rule out any of these other themes, but we haven't really narrowed it down. It could be a shooter. It could be a shooter adventure. It could be a hack and slash role playing game, adventure RPG. So we've got role playing in two of these. We've got adventure in two of these. We don't necessarily know for sure, but it is probably some kind of role playing adventure game. It could also be a shooter. Overwatch is first person, third person, right? All right, we've narrowed the year down even further. 2017 or 2018. Oh, you're right. Overwatch was on Switch. So yeah, there was no way it was going to be Overwatch, but at least we gained information, right? It could be a strategy game, but now we've gotten two things on shooter here. So this is maybe a role-playing shooter with co-op. Co-op and multiplayer. It couldn't be No Man's Sky because that's come out on more platforms than this. It couldn't be Gears because it came out on PlayStation 4. It did not release on the Switch. When did Borderlands the pre-sequel come out? God. Before this, right? Destiny? Yeah, you know. Destiny 1 would fit, maybe not the years, but oh, I guess, yeah, Destiny came out on the older consoles as well. So, and 2014, Jesus. Oh, right, yeah, 10 years of Destiny. So, yeah, yes. And Destiny did not come out on the PC until Destiny 2, so. Okay. MMO, that's, I don't think I would necessarily, look. I know that's the vibe they're going for, but, ND Games. Oh, okay, that's just in some other region, perhaps. Activision is but we know it's not an Activision game. It's not a Bungie game. It's not ND Games, whatever the fuck that is. Let's take the clue. Action, fantasy, sci-fi is what it gave us there. Action, fantasy, sci-fi, first person, third person, co-op. That's not. Is this Fallout 76? Because they didn't re-release that for modern. No, because that they would probably. I bet they would refer to that as an MMO. And it's not Bethesda, right? Is it? Do we know it's not EA? We don't. So what about? Would this be so? When did everyone get mad about microtransactions? That was before the pandemic. I was sitting in the desk on the first floor. So that's probably Battlefront 2. Because when that came out, that was when. Hey. All right then. All right, single player only, older than 08. None of these platforms. It did not come out on PC. It did not come out on phones. So that means if it's 2008 and it didn't come out on 360, or it's older than 2008, did not come out on 360, that means it's like PlayStation 2 era or something. It had some of these themes. It could be an adventure game, could be a hack and slash. Could be horror, could be fantasy, could be action, but we know it's older, so let's try to think about. It's not a third-person game. So it could be a first-person game, it could be a side view game, but it didn't come out on any of those platforms. Fantasy, horror, or action. What about like what about the first Metroid Prime? Older than 02. And it did not come out on the Wii, or well, I guess, yeah, if it's older than 02, and it didn't come out on GameCube. It's not a Nintendo game. It's not a first-person game. So this is probably a really old game then. This is probably going to be like a side viewy kind of platformery. Let's go old. Okay. It is a side view game that is newer than 91. It is not a platformer. I was going to say it could be a fighting game, but it's single player only. So that rules out any fighting game you'd care about. And it didn't ship on any of these platforms, so it's not a com. That's cute. Sonic is not an official Commodore 64 game. I get what you're like. Yeah, there was that homebrew thing, but like this is bad data. This is another example of bad data. So it is just side view, meaning it doesn't have any other views like that. It could be a hack and slash. So what if it's like, well, it's not Golden Axe because it's single player only. 92 to 2001. So 92 rules out, like, what is that? That rules out launch SNES games. So it's not a platformer, but we also know it's probably not like Super Castlevania 4 or whatever. It could still be a PlayStation game. Let's try Symphony of the Night. '92 to '96, and it didn't come out on PlayStation. So it's not an early PS1 game. It is not action or horror. It's not action. That rules out damn near every video game that I would think about from this era that is a side view game. It's not action and it's not horror. That means it must be fantasy. It's a side view fantasy game from 92 to 96. Fantasy. And I guess that means it's also sci-fi. So it's fantasy sci-fi from 92 to 96. 92 to 96. What the fuck? And it's single player only, which rules out beat 'em ups and things of that nature. Even though that is here, I'm guessing that means that it is an adventure game. We know it's not a platformer, but it could be an adventure or RPG. It's a Faxanadu, but that's too old. East 3, yeah. Is East 3, is that the right era? Is that even in here? I'm going to say probably not. Yeah. I feel like their database, you know, they're adding more games to this as they go, I guess, but you know, it's not as esoteric as I wish it was. I mean, it's already pretty fucking hard. So yeah, that's a good point. We'll figure out a SNES game that fits some of these. Lester the Unlikely. No? Not in there. Final Fantasy games are not side view. They would not. I guess we did not rule out Nintendo platforms of the era. So, sure, let's try Super Metroid. But Super Metroid is going to come up as an action game, so it's definitely not that. But okay, this at least like narrows our window here a little bit. It did not come out on the SNES. The game we're looking for is not a SNES game. and it's not a PC game, which would only, I'm trying to think like viable platforms of 92 and 93. So it's probably a, well, wait, no, it's not a Genesis game because it's not Sonic the Hedgehog. So it's got to be a Game Boy game. Or yeah, TurboGrafx or a computer game or something. I mean, they have C64 in here, so presumably they have Amiga lurking somewhere in the background. Let's take the clue. Okay. Fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, historical. Day of the Tentacle. Because you go back in time, you know, you got your Ben Franklins and stuff. So historical technically fits, but it's not. Day of the Tentacle has been, well, I guess that was a remaster, right? But Day of the Tentacle came out on, like there was a re-release of Day of the Tentacle on more modern platforms. So this almost seems like bad data to me too, but I guess that Day of the Tentacle is technically called Day of the Tentacle Remastered, right? It has a different name. Yeah, because they remastered it, I guess. So that's technically a different game. But that's frustrating because you would think of this as, anyway. That's frustrating, but at least it's technically correct. Whereas I feel like some of the data feels suspect. Yeah, that big triangular box for Day of the Tentacle that the CD version came in, pretty fucking kick-ass. I still have that out in the garage. One of these times it's going to be a Capcom game, and we're going to feel real smart for picking a Devil May Cry. But it's newer than 05, and it came out on either PS2 or Windows. I'm going to guess it didn't. I'm going to guess we're not talking about a PS2 game. It's not a third-person game. It's not a hack and slash or an adventure game. How about Halo 5? I shouldn't pick Halo 5 because it's first and third, so. But it is a shooter. It's probably just a first-person game. 2006 to 2014. Did not come out on Xbox One, which 2014 is kind of the limit there. So we're thinking about PS3, 360, and PC. We know PC. We know it's not just single player, but it either has co-op or it has multiplayer, but it does not have both. It is not a first-party Microsoft game. It is not a Capcom game. Which Call of Duties are in here? So this could technically be Call of Duty 4. I don't think there's any third person in there. Okay, so it's a Call of Duty game that came out on these platforms from 2008 to 2014. So the Wii games were not. It was not. Which ones of these came out on the Wii? Actually, I guess the real question is like, which one of these are in the system? Because they don't have. I'm going to say this is like limited to like World at War, and then did Black Ops come out on Wii? Yeah. Yay. It's nice when you get them right. It feels bad when you get them wrong. Didn't this have a different name on Wii? Because there was a while there when the Wii versions were getting like weird subtitles or something, right? Where they're like, it's Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified, or was that like the Vita game or something? Anyway. Devil May Cry 4. Seems like a solid dividing line because we don't always want to go back to the PS2. So I feel like most of the games I've seen come up have been like, I was going to say new, but new was maybe a weird way to put it. But I'm going to say anything new, anything above PS2, those are new games. Oh, man. Oh, man. Is Dino Wars in the system? I don't think it is, but no, it's not. It's a okay, it's not just a third-person game, but it does have third-person in it. It came to some of these platforms. Not a hack and slash, not an adventure game. So is it a shooter? It is a shooter with first-person, third-person. It's newer than 2015. Is it Overwatch 2? Shit. All right. The limits of the database, I think, are the thing that help you dial that stuff in, because I know that Overwatch and Overwatch 2 were in here. I know that modern Call of Duty is not. Like, if you look at the Call of Duty list, it's kind of not. It doesn't have, like, it has Warzone, which is you know, that is new, but I think the other newest one they have is probably like, it's like Modern Warfare Remastered or something. Or I guess Black Ops 4 is probably the newest one they have in here. Which is fine. That's plenty of Call of Duty. But it helps you kind of narrow down, like, okay, it's not going to be Big Red 1, the weird console only thing, and so it feels like it's skewed in favor. I've not seen any games from the 80s, and I've seen very few games from the 90s show up. So it's been one of these times it's just going to be a Devil May Cry game, and we're going to be like, damn geniuses. Not a third-person game. It has a single player. It either has action or horror. It is not a hack and slash or beat 'em up. It was either on, well, it was on PC because it was probably not on PS2. I should probably pick Devil May Cry 4 because that's probably a better dividing line. Okay, it's not third person, so it's not Halo 5. What did Halo 4 have third person in it? It did. It's newer than Halo 4. It is not a shooter. Or rather, wait. It is a shooter, but also it is other stuff, I think is actually what that means. It is not a Capcom game or a Microsoft game. Okay. How about let's try some Ubisoft stuff. What about like a Far Cry 5? Newer than that. It is a first-person game. It has multiplayer and co-op, newer than 2018. It came out on PC. It maybe came out on PS4 and Xbox. Well, no, that's 2018. We're getting, it could still very well be a PS4 and Xbox One game. Because it's 2018, so it's probably Far Cry 6. It's not, so we know it's not a Far Cry game because it's not part of the Far Cry saga. I would label this as franchise, but that's splitting hairs. Game, as far as game modes go, remember that Battle Royale is given its own game mode on their list, so it means it's probably not Apex Legends. It is probably not PUBG, which is third person anyway, and so on. So this could be Battlefield. Would Battlefield be classified as just a shooter though? Because then this would be filled in if that was the case. And yeah, Battlefield maybe has some third person stuff in there. But let's pick an EA game just to narrow it down a little bit. We'll get some years on this anyway. It didn't help as much as I wish it did, but okay. I need to think of some go-to Unreal Engine games to figure out when to narrow that stuff down. So so it's a shooter, but not just a shooter. That could make it 2019, 2020. I was going to say that could make it like a BioShock or something. What about Prey? No, Prey is too old, right? Both Preys are in here. But Prey is not a 20... Is Prey a 2019 game? Prey doesn't have co-op. Or it doesn't have competitive, right? Well, no, that's like Prop Hunt and stuff like, doesn't it have? Yeah, there's some kind of multiplayer in Prey, isn't there? Now I'm gonna waste one just because I want to know. Like, there's something in there. No, I guess that's just single. Okay. All right, and it's not even the right time frame. Border Lands 3. Okay. Alrighty. Devil May Cry 4. Older than that. Single player only, not Capcom. Let's try and rein it in a little bit. Shooter platform adventure. Single player only, 95 to 07. It did come out on some of these platforms. 95 would be late for a SNES game, but we could be talking about a Wii game. We're not talking about a Switch game because we're talking about, well, first release, right? I mean, it could have still come out on the Switch later. Probably an action game. Potentially a thriller. Super Metroid, a thriller. I guess it's spooky. Parts of Super Metroid are spooky. It's not Metroid Prime because we picked a Metroid game and we know it's not from Nintendo and it is not a Metroid game. We also know it's not a third-person game and not a side view game, meaning it's either going to be a third-person game or some kind of isometric job. 95 to 07. Not third person. I was about to type in Siphon Filter, but that's not it. I'm always just about to type in Siphon Filter. You know me. 95 to 07. So that's PlayStation all the way through to, I guess, PlayStation 3, technically. So it did come out on... Is Parappa considered third person? I guess, with these limitations in mind, I would say Parappa is a side view game. What's the first? Well, most of the Clancy games are going to have co-op or multiplayer, especially as we get later, closer to 07. It's Freedom Fighters in here. It is not. We should probably rule out some other publishers at least. We know it's not third person at all. So it can't be third person and first person because we know it's definitely not third person. So that means it's not a Metal Gear game. It's not third person, so it's probably not Splinter Cell because Splinter Cell those were third person games. Black for sure. Yeah, Black is not 95, right? Oh no, of course it would be. Black's a PS2 game. Black is right there in the middle of all that. I'll try Black. Is Black in here? Black is in here. 07. A first-person shooter from 2007 that does not have, or rather, it's not just a shooter. It does have shooting. It is probably an EA game. An EA game from 07. When did EA start publishing Crisis? 07. It's not going to be a Criterion game in 07 because the only thing that Criterion was doing in 07 was still on the renderware engine, and we know it's not a renderware game, and we know it's not Burnout, and they did not make a first person shooter other than Black. It came out on some of these platforms. Shooter is I'm just going to go with the first person EA parts of this. And I guess like technically Mirror's Edge had some shooting in it, but okay. That's too late. 08. And it's not an Unreal Engine game, which I guess EA in 07. So 2007 is the year that like Modern Warfare 1 came out. So is there a Medal of Honor game that would have come out? It's like Airborne, but like these had multiplayer by the time they got to this point. Didn't they have multiplayer? That's 07. Let's take the clue. Shooter platform puzzle. Probably published by EA. Shooter platform puzzle. Single player only. Published by EA. Well, shooter platform puzzle, I mean, that's... EA did publish those. Is this 1 or 2? I guess we'll... Okay, it's 1. All right. That's a tricky one because, you don't... people are probably not going to remember that EA technically published Portal on, like, consoles. Yeah, cool. All right. I don't know. There's probably a better starting game than Devil May Cry 4, but it is a third-person single-player game. It's perhaps shipped on some of these systems. It's newer than 08. If it's newer than 08, I'm going to say that it's probably not going to be... Well, it could be. Because there's all these other platforms on here. We have PS4 and Xbox One, so... Single-player only third-person game newer than 2008. Potentially an adventure game. Potentially a hack-and-slash beat-em-up. Potentially an adventure game. Third-person only. So not first-person. Not the MT Framework engine. God damn it. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Damn it. Okay. 38 studios didn't make it. We've ruled out the sizable 38 studios catalog. (2009 to 2011). So that's going to be pre-Xbox One and PS4. But it's not just 360, PS3, and so if we assume that it came out on this generation of consoles, because that would fit 360, PS3, PC, it had to have come out on something else. When it's not Devil May Cry, it could always be Bayonetta, but Bayonetta didn't come. So 2009, 2011, Bayonetta 1 is older than that, I want to say. And Bayonetta 2 didn't come out on those platforms. So it is probably not Bayonetta 2. We could rule out Sega that way. Is Gears 3 a stupid guess? Well, so we know it's single player only, so it cannot be Gears 3. No More Heroes 2. Did that come out on all these platforms? Plus one more? That's possible. If No More Heroes 2 came out on at least one of these platforms, then it is possible that it is No More Heroes 2. I don't know the years. The dates I think are the hardest thing. Like I can rein it in by generation in my head and go like, okay, 2014 is probably this, it's probably this. What would have been the Assassin's Creed? Well, we know it's single player only, so it's not Brotherhood, right? Because they have all the multiplayer in 2, or is it just okay? Not a Ubisoft game. Wet, yeah. Is Wet in here? Damn it. No Wet. Brotherhood had a multiplayer. We know it's not an Assassin's Creed game. We know it's not a Ubisoft game at this point. 2010 to 2011 is a pretty specific window of gaming for I guess like that's late. It's getting to be late PS3 and Xbox 360. It's a third-person game. It is a single-player only game. It is probably an action game. It could very well be a fantasy game. But if it is, it's more than just those two things. It could be a hack and slash beat 'em up, which, like a character action game, but there aren't. Is this I'm trying to think. This might be the wrong times, but like, is this going to be? I have two guesses. One is Vanquish. Okay, so Platinum didn't develop it. That actually eliminated. I was thinking, is this Metal Gear Rising? But could be a shooter. What would have been a 2011? What was the? No, there is no like 2011 Ratchet game, is there? This would at least tell us if it was first party Sony. (2011) third person single player only. Did Dead Space have co-op in Dead Space 2, or was that only Dead Space 3? Got the year right, at least. I guess we knew it wasn't an EA game, so that was a bad guess. That was a bad guess. Okay, 2011. Dark Souls 1 was 2011, but that has like multiplayer. That has multiplayer stuff in it. So let's take the clue. Namco. Level 5. This is one of those fucking games, man. Shit, dude. Third person, single player only, 2011, level 5. Is that Ni no Kuni? Did level 5... Looks like this is a game that level 5 also published in some territory. Okay. DMC4. Your friend and mine. Oh, God. Okay, so we know it's not a third-person game in any way, shape, or form. It's not just single player. And it is older than 08. So let's box that in with Super Metroid again. If we can. I should have picked something that had... yeah, there's a better choice that would have ruled out more stuff here. But at least that gives us something. 95 to 07, that's a big window. That's what? That's PS1 to midway through the 360. It does have multiplayer of some sort. It is not third person. It is not side view. It has some of this shit in it. Let's try Halo 2. Yeah, I guess Halo 2 does have third person in it technically. That's frustrating. It's like, oh, damn it. But yeah, I guess so it's probably a first person game. It is not just a shooter, but it is action sci-fi. Action sci-fi from 2005, 2007. So that's going to be pretty solidly 360 PS3 era. Mass Effect was not Mass Effect is third person, so it cannot be Mass Effect. Action sci-fi 05 to 07 does sound a lot like BioShock 1. But it's not just single player, so it can't be BioShock 1. BioShock 2 did not come out until after 07. Singularity is a fun guess, but Singularity did not have multiplayer, if I remember correctly. Also, Singularity seems like the sort of game that would not currently be in this database, but let's find out. It is! I want to pick it. I feel like I need to pick it just on principle. But yeah, okay. Man, 2010 for Singularity. That feels super new. Singularity seems way older than that, I guess, is my point. It is an Unreal Engine game. It was probably published by Activision. And it is single player and multiplayer. Published by Activision, or it may be developed by Raven and not published by Activision. It's one or the other. It's first person Unreal Engine game. Action sci-fi. Action sci-fi. If it was Wolfenstein, then we would probably have historical here. I think, so, themes wasn't like, we talk a lot about genres on the podcast, right? But themes is also a thing that kind of was one of those things where you want to come up with as many as you can, but not too many. And I believe we settled on having an alternate historical theme at some point, because that's a meaningful differentiation, right? Historical or alternate historical. But either way, it is not historical in any way. So Wolfenstein would not be a good fit here. Elite Force, Star Trek Elite Force has got to be newer than 05 to 07, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It's not just a shooter. It's action sci-fi. Xbox and Xbox One. Okay, this is probably... Okay, we know it almost certainly came out on the PC. Published by Activision. Unreal Engine, so it's not Quake 4. It is more than just a shooter. Shadowrun's a fun choice, but that's we know it's not Microsoft published, so it can't be that. Brink is newer than that. Brink is newer than that. This is before, so this is a first-person multiplayer game in Unreal Engine from before Call of Duty 4 getting big. And Call of Duty 4 would not be a sci-fi game, so it is unlikely to be that. And it did come out on one of these systems here. Wii, SNES, 3DS, Switch, or Wii U. So it did come to consoles. It is not just a PC-only game. It did come to some Nintendo device. Fuck. An Unreal Engine game on a Nintendo platform is fucking weird, too. The Conduit only came out on Wii, right? So the Conduit didn't ever come to PC. Also, I think last night I was typing in the Conduit and it was not in here. So the Switch can do Unreal Engine games. It could be a case where like it originally came out in 05 to 07, but then maybe it got a port to the Switch way later. It's probably more likely to be that or Wii U. I mean... Yeah, you're right. The Conduit was also much later than, well, not much later, but it was later than 07, now that I think about it. When I think about where I worked, what office was I in when the Conduit was being played? Can't be Arkham Asylum because we're talking about a first-person game that is not a third-person game. And it is probably published by Activision. And if it's not published by Activision, then it's developed by Raven. That is actually probably the clearest hint we have, is that it is a game with shooting but not just a shooter. It is first person only, so meaning not third person. It does have multiplayer, and it came out on Nintendo. Is this that shitty GoldenEye remaster? Or what did they... There was the other Bond game. Like, they did 2 of them, didn't they? Activision did 2 dumb Bond games on Nintendo platforms. GoldenEye, well, it was GoldenEye Rogue Agent, right? So the GoldenEye, regular ass GoldenEye is the only GoldenEye in their database. So it's not that. Is Bond sci-fi? You could make a case for that. He's got a laser watch. You don't have a laser watch. Quake 4 is not an Unreal Engine game. Fuck. First person Activision game from 2005 to 2007. So like early Xbox 360. But yeah, I think most of Raven's stuff at this point would have been published by Activision. So that probably means it is an Activision game not developed by Raven. And so what the fuck was Activision doing before Call of Duty got big? They were doing a lot of stuff, making a lot of questionable choices. Casino Royale, is that? No casino. Yeah, Guitar Hero Aerosmith, that's your first person. From Russia with Love was an EA Bond game. Activision got the license back after EA had their time with it, and that's when they made that dumb GoldenEye thing that came with like the golden fucking Wii remote. Super fucking stupid. God, man, I am fucking stumped. There was Singularity. There was another goddamn Activision. Singularity was not the only first-person shooter that Activision was making that we talk about in this era, right? So X-Men Destiny. X-Men Destiny, I remember being third person. And also it's not in here. Unless they spelled X-Men wrong for that one. No. Okay. What the hell was it, man? We already guessed Singularity, and that got us a lot of information. Ugh. All right, what are some other things we can try to whittle down here if we're I'm stumped on the Activision thing. Maybe we can narrow down some years. Let's throw Modern Warfare out there just because. Well, let's do let's say 05 to 07, you know, this doesn't fit because it's not a sci-fi game, but it should at least give us okay. So it's an 05 game. We know that now. And we know that Activision is the commonality here. So we know it's an Activision published game from 2005. It is first person. People keep saying gun, which is not sci-fi. And I'm pretty sure gun had third person in it. Yeah, gun is a third person game. And I don't think it was Unreal Engine. The platforms, I'm sure that if we stared at the platform list long enough and tried to deduce, we could at least like guarantee. But I think it's pretty safe to say that it came out on PC, but also it had to come out on some 2005 Nintendo platform. Wii U, or it had to come out on some Nintendo platform. Wii, SNES, not SNES. So this could be Wii, right? No, the Wii wasn't 05, was it? Was it 06? Okay, but it could be a port. This could be so the release date is the date of first availability. So this could be a situation where it came out on Xbox 360 and then got ported to Wii the following year. It has to be an action sci-fi game running in the Unreal Engine from 2005. Republic Commando. I don't think Activision published that. Activision did have the Transformers license, you're right, but not in 05. Those Transformers games were a generation after, not a generation after that, but a little. Let's take the clue. Tactical shooter adventure. What? Tactical fucking shooter adventure from 05. So this is like launch days of the 360. Published by Activision. Graw would not fit because Ubisoft published Graw. That is a Clance. That is some hot Clance. I don't think Republic Commando was Activision, but I don't have a better guess. So, you're right. Okay. Gosh. That one's not on me. That one's on y'all. You got that one right. I thought that this would have been. Oh, so is this a situation where, because I would have said that LucasArts published that and that Activision had nothing to do with it, but maybe this is a situation where, yeah, I guess that did come to, yeah, they put Republic Commando out on Switch. What a fucking weird game. But I would have, yeah, I would not have attached Activision's name to Republic Commando. It's not, that's not in my head as an Activision game. That's that's from the days when Lucas was publishing games. So I think about it as a LucasArts game, but that is correct. All right. Older than 08, it is not just a single player game. Capcom didn't make it. It's definitely not third person. So this could be a side view game. It came out on some of these platforms, so it's not Super Metroid. I don't know. Super Metroid runs great on my PC. I don't really get why we're no? All right. I feel like most of these games are like PlayStation era and onward. So if we're going earlier than 08, why don't we say... No, Crash Bandicoot is third person. Why don't we say Disruptor? Nope. What's a first person game on the PlayStation? Jumping Flash. Nope. Siphon Filter is third person. I'm looking for something in the 90s. I'm looking for something that's going to be like PlayStation era first person game. I'll say, yeah, Turok's a good choice. Thank you. First person game from 98 to 07. Probably not an N64 game, but probably came out on PC. It's first person, so it probably has shooting in it, but maybe not adventure. Oh, we know it's not adventure, so yeah. First person, 98 to 07. Not just a single player game. Or no, it has no single player. So that's Battlefield 2. Oh, okay. '98 to 04. It is a shooter and nothing else. It is action warfare. It is Battlefield. 19. It is not just a PC game, though, huh? So it's not 42. It came to PC, but it's not just PC. And also, we know it's not. Yeah, it's not a Battlefield game, right? Ugh. First-person action warfare shooter, 98 to 04. Fucking. Okay. Luckily, Wildlands is the only Ghost Recon game in the system, so we don't have to go crazy down the Ghost Recon rabbit hole. Could this be Vegas? No, that's 04 is too early for Vegas. But what if it's that? Okay. Not Ubisoft. Action warfare shooter, first person, no single player. No single player. It was Counter-Strike. Well, looks like you guys got it around the same time I did. Okay. It could still be Turok Rage Wars. You're right. Have you ever seen the title screen to I'm gonna get a screenshot of this. We should be making shirts with this on it. Of the Japanese title screen for Turok 2. Because that version of the game is called Violence Killer: Turok New Generation. Let me find. See if I can find an image of this. I need it in URL form. All right, that'll work. Because I think I can just go like. Yeah. Just the logo, just the thing that says Violence Killer Turok New Generation, and then this below it is probably what I would go for there. Anyway. Oh, Turok 2, not in the database. Just Turok 1. That's, yeah, I imagine like picking and choosing what games you put in the database probably is a bit of an art as well. Though the goal, I'm sure, would be to eventually just have everything. Like, not having some of those other Turok games kind of helps. Just make things a little more. It's easier to bracket things in a little bit. You know what I mean? Just thinking about it. There we go. Newer than 08, it does have third person in it. It does have single player in it. It is not a hack and slash or an adventure game, and it came out on some stuff. Okay, if we're going newer than 08, I feel like the other, well, yeah, Halo 5 would have something resembling third person in it. We know it's first and third. We know it's got co-op, multiplayer, and single player. It's newer than 2015, and it appeared on the Xbox One, among other things. Not a shooter. First and third, newer than 2015. Well, let's try and pick a newer game and kind of try to... Crackdown 1 is the only Crackdown in the system. That's fine. That's the only Crackdown that matters. You know, it's sometimes it seems foolish picking a Konami game, like, you know, in terms of just like what's going to get you the most potential information. Oh, that was the same year as Halo 5. Man, okay, I forgot that Phantom Pain was the same year as Halo 5. That's weird. But okay. Well, it doesn't run on the Fox engine. It's not Konami, Microsoft, or Capcom. It's first and third person. First and third person. Does that rule out? Oh, it's got multi. I was gonna say it's like Bayonetta 3 or something, but I guess we already ruled out our hack and slash stuff back here with our Devil May Cry. Not a shooter. Not tactical. Not an adventure game. First and third person. Co-op and multiplayer. Newer than 2015. What if it's like a weird... Oh, I guess GT7 counts as side view. I mean, I guess there's some menu where you're looking at a car and that's side view. That's, I don't know. Nonfiction is an interesting theme choice. I mean, that's true. Gran Turismo 7, that happened. That's real. But it is either a sport, a simulator, or racing. Like, that's potentially possible. 2016 to 2021. Let's just try a Forza game. I don't know what... well, I guess there's no specific driving. Well, there's racing. There's racing. 2016 to 2021, was there a Forza game? It would have been Horizon, right? It would have been... and it did not come out on PS4 or PS5. So that's kind of... well, but it's not... okay, not a Microsoft published game. So not Forza. Not Forza, not a PlayStation game. But it did come out on Xbox One. So this is a game that... this is the rare game that probably came out on PC. And came out on Xbox One between 2016 and 2021. Has co-op and multiplayer. And is first and third person. Not published by Microsoft. Could be a racing game. Simulator sport. Co-op and multiplayer. Not on PlayStation platforms. Not on PlayStation platforms. That's a... like, name me a game that came out on Xbox and PC, probably. That didn't also come out on PlayStation and was not published by Microsoft. Need for Speed, all those games came to PlayStation. Trackmania came to PlayStation. So it's not PS4 or PS5. Blur almost certainly came out on PS3. Activision. And then, yeah, that's actually way older. Blur is like 08, 09 or something, right? Hmm. I mean, it could have come out on PlayStation 3, but that's weird. Could be a sports game. Is there a sports game that doesn't come to PlayStation though? That's the thing. Like MLB The Show is the only like first party exclusive, but that only comes to PlayStation, or back then did anyway. Um, it's not published by Microsoft, so it can't be Forza. It is not nonfiction, so that probably rules out a lot of other standard driving games, or and it has some of this stuff. It could be open world, like action was in all three of these, so it is. It could be an action simulator, action sports. Could it be action sports? That was always a fun. That's a bad genre name, action sports, but we didn't have a lot of other good terms for the Tony Hawk games then. Co-op multiplayer first and third. Do we have EA on this list yet? We don't. Is this? No, that's too new. Skate 3 is not 2016. That's 2010. Okay, so it's not sports. We at least ruled that out. So it's either a simulator or it's racing. Simulator. Is it like a flight sim or a space simulator? Like a wing commandery kind of thing? It is not tactical. It is not an adventure. So it's probably not elite. That is something I would call elite either tactical or adventure. It is not a hack and slash, but okay, so we know it's not adventure. We know it's not shooter. So okay, well, whatever. We know it's not tactical. What am I even? We know it's not sports. It's probably not racing. It could be a sandbox or open world game. It could be a simulator. Is it No Man's Sky? We shaved a year off of it. Okay, so now we know it is not a simulator, which means it has to, in fact, be a racing game. That did not come out on the PS4 or PS5. And was not published by Microsoft. Was not published by EA, so that rules out all of Need for Speed. Trials. Last time I checked, the Trials games were not in here. Yeah. Last night I found myself typing in Trials HD a lot, but no. Also, that's a side view game, so it is not first person, third person. Racing doesn't necessarily mean cars, but that's kind of also sort of a weird. Yeah, is there like a Colin McRae or like I feel like all those games were third party, and let's take the hint. I feel like all of okay. Action, open world. (2017 to 2021) action open world. So is that has racing in it. But that doesn't mean it's just racing. Like that could be the Crew what? The Crew 2? That's in here. The Crew 1 is probably older than this. if I had to guess. Okay, it's a racing game and just a racing game. What the fuck is this? It's a racing game, action open. It's an open world racing game with some action. Whatever that means. 2019 to 2021. Co-op multiplayer single player. Not from Ubisoft, not from Sony, not from Microsoft. What's that? It has co-op and multiplayer. What was the? Is the game? They shut down the servers. It was a driving game where you did combat. It was a racing game, but you crashed into each other on not onslaught, oncoming, on last, outlast, on rush. There we go. Damn it. Yeah, and that came out on PlayStation. So damn it. All right. What the fuck is this? 2019 to 2021, it didn't come out on a PlayStation platform. It is just racing. It is not some other genre. So it is not like GTA or something like that. It is an open world racing game from 2019 to 2021. It is not Forza Horizon. Is Wreckfest open world? I don't think it is. And that came out everywhere, didn't it? We don't have a lot of popular engines on our list to rule things out. We never did get an Unreal Engine game in there, but I don't think that would help at this point. And it came out, wait. It came out on Xbox One. 2019 to 2021. So it's probably on the early end of that. Loco Cycle is not in the database. I checked. Loco Roco is. Yeah, is there like a motorcycle racing game? Like co-op is always a weird one too, because what the hell is... Are any of the Flat Out games in here? That's too... Like Flat Out 2 is older than 2019, I want to say. But I don't have any better... Yeah, 2006, Jesus. Way older, in fact. It can't be Burnout because we've already ruled out EA. And also 2019 to 2021, what would that be? That'd be like Burnout Paradise Remastered maybe came out in that window. But we know it's not EA. Did like American Truck Simulator or something come out? On Did that come out on Xbox? Yeah, I don't think it did. Mud Runner? Man. All right, I'll go with Mud Runner because okay, we will not go with Mud Runner because Mud Runner is not in here. What about Snow Runner? No games with snow in there. Got some SSX games in there though. And we've already ruled out simulator. So American Truck Simulator, you would think would probably have the simulator tag on it. Yeah, what was the Dirt game that launched alongside? It came out, it was one of the first games that had Xbox Series X upgrade support. Was that Dirt 5? Dirt 5 didn't originally come out on PS5, I don't think. Oh, well, okay. They've listed Xbox Game Studios as a separate publisher from Microsoft Game Studios, and that's wrong. Like that, those should probably be lumped together into the same thing. Those should probably be the same thing. That's a bummer. That's like, yeah, it's like Microsoft has changed the name of their publishing operation 5 or 6 times over the years, but that's yeah, I don't know. Those should probably be like aliased to each other or something like that, but yeah, that's a frustrating one. I got time for like one more as long as we rush through it. So let's try a speed round here. Side view for some of those driving games is always kind of a weird one too, because you know that's one of those things that technically when you're buying a car, maybe that's a side view, I guess, but that doesn't feel right either. Okay, it's not just single player, so it's not Fallout 4. We'll go back to Halo 5 as our follow-up second choice. All right. It is probably a first-person game with... Stop me if you heard this before. It's a first-person game. This does have some shooting in it. It's newer than 2015. It contains some of these themes. It has multiplayer and it has co-op. As Titanfall 2 is not newer than... I guess it... Okay, it's 2016, so... It is a first-person only game. It either has action or sci-fi in it, or it could. I guess it could have both and something else, a secret third thing. We know this is not going to be the right answer, but let's, like in the interest of getting more data. All right, there you go. It's a shooter with role playing, and it's an adventure game. It's newer than 2019. It is, I was going to say Cyberpunk, but that is not co-op or multiplayer. But we did get the platforms there, so that's a current gen, previous gen adventure RPG shooter. This might as well describe every game that comes out anymore. You know what I mean? Newer than 2020, co-op, multiplayer, first person, pretty recent. That's Borderlands 3 is older than that, but Wonderlands is that's a good potential choice there. All right, we got the year right. It was 2022. It is not an Unreal Engine game. It is multiplayer, co-op, and single player. I would suspect that Fallout 76 would be listed in here as a MMO, the same way Destiny is. It runs on the C engine. I'm sorry, the what? Boy, that doesn't help at all. That's more confusing than anything else. Hey, people name their engines all the time. Probably not CryEngine, because that would probably just say CryEngine. Is it Creation Engine? Yeah, I don't know. We tried Fallout 4 is not 2022. Dying Light 2? I'll give that a go. Yeah, you're right. But I guess with an engine as relatively unused as the C engine, that's a quick Google away if you wanna figure that out. They've got there's a button here for like reporting like bugs and stuff. Like it's this thing feels like it's evolving all the time. It's awesome. This is fun. And they do a daily, and then these unlimited modes. I think that's where this is where the juice is. And you can go to Gamedle.wtf if you want to get going on that. If you want to spend some time with this. Characters, I think it'd be a fun one. This is all the stuff that when we were building a wiki, there was always this idea of just like, how could we leverage this data to build fun things, and very few things ever really came of it. It's sort of a bummer, but that we never really were able to truly exploit some of that data in fun ways. But this is pretty awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. People seem to dig it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we'll check this out. Yeah, someone hit me up on Tumblr and said, "Hey, you should check this out." And so here we are, checking this out. And you can too, if that's your bag. Was it? Yeah, Gamedle, GAMEDLE.WTF is the old the URL for that. So yeah, I hope all you violence killers had a fun time killing violence with me as part of the new generation of violence killer Turok. Something about Turok new generation just sounds like wrestling to me. I guess new generation is just, that's a kind of a specific term for an era of wrestling, a bad era of wrestling. Which, when I think about what my feelings on Turok 2, yeah, that's about right. Or maybe I'm just thinking about it because it's a claim and they did all that stuff. But anyway, I'll be back on Friday to rank some 8-bit Nintendo games, and we'll keep on building that list. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in a couple of days.